I think we like to pretend that motorcycle manufacturers think about and design their bike with shots like this in mind: sunrises and sunsets, beautiful scenery and magic core memories unlocked. But they're really not. The truth is messy and complicated, a mishmash of departments all trying to make decisions about what to do. Sometimes it goes really well, and sometimes it doesn't. The KTM 390 Adventure always felt like one of those bikes that didn't quite fit the gap it was slotted into.
It feels like riding a sport bike off-road. Now granted,
A fun bike, but an adventure bike from a brand with a heavy dirt bike off-road racing bias? Now, a cynic might say it was a classic marketing job. In fact, I might say that. The 390 Adventure was a bike that was adventure in nothing but the name, a classic marketing job. Now, I think on the day I wrote that, I was probably feeling a bit sassy, but sometimes marketing does work out and the brand wins, and sometimes marketing gets pummeled by better products. In 2024, Royal Enfield sold as many Himalayans in a month as KTM sold 390 Adventures in a year. I had no faith that that platform was ever going to be worth paying attention to, not on the existing engine and chassis platform. KTMs didn't seem fussed about the small bikes, they're not having the best moment in their history either. The 890 is a great bike with Cadbury cams. The 1290 is a phenomenal bike, but it's probably not for most people, and the gaps in that market have been filled with great bikes by rivals. From a distance, I could see the hope that the 390 Adventure R was KTM still trying to prove themselves amongst the chaos of financial catastrophe. But up close, I think it looked a little cheap, unfinished and un-KTM. Now, I think the word I'm probably looking for is apathy. How are you and I meant to care about a model line that was neglected by a brand wrapped in a tornado of crap built on a house of cards made of raging capitalism? But KTM are now wholly owned by Bajaj. The wheels are back in motion. And while the KTM situation is not completely straightforward, being owned by a super rich daddy is definitely going to help. The consumer question is probably not will they survive, but what does that survival look like? Will they keep what makes a KTM a KTM? And if we look a little closer at the 390 Adventure R, you will find some oddities. The bi-brake front brake is right side mounted, and I think that's odd. The underslung exhaust is odd. The off-center shock is quite odd for KTM. The air filter is almost quick access, something KTM are so good at, but this one requires two different bolts to undo the panel. The swing arm looks half finished, the frame is not the prettiest, and these are details that I think KTM have been really good at. But then this is the exposed subframe on a £15,000 Africa Twin. It's not exactly pretty. Complaining about the finish at this price point is like complaining a Dacia Duster didn't come with Bose speakers and deerskin seats. You knew what you were getting into when you bought it. The compact packaging does, however, make sense. The underslung exhaust means that you won't ever melt your luggage, and the rear end stays nice and slim. You'll never bend an exhaust mount again, and the chances of water making it to the cylinder through the exhaust are roughly the same as it coming in through the airbox. It's as light as it can be without blowing through the EU's A2 0.2 kilowatts per kilogram limit. Doing adventure bike things on national speed limit roads is fine. The solid mount bars, the Revy engine, the lack of bar weights and the lack of refinement mean this is probably the first bike in years I wish I'd left the rubber mounts in the foot pegs. At around 60 miles an hour, there's a vibration to the whole bike. It makes it feel like I want to change up a gear, go into an overdrive gear. I'm at 5,000 RPM, but I'm in top gear. There's nothing I can do about that, except if I accelerate a little bit, go up to kind of 70, the vibrations change a little bit, and actually it feels more comfortable. Now, it feels like an overgrown dirt bike to do this stuff on that's rolling on adventure tires. It is very nimble, but probably also a tiny bit too nimble, a little bit flighty. I wouldn't want to ride it on a super windy day on open plain. I think its road ability goes in a box of it can get the job done and get you from A to B, rather than this is an adventure bike designed with road touring in mind. But if there's one thing KTM have always built themselves on, it's by doing things that other brands won't, building bikes for riders for specific purposes with that slightly arrogant belief that they know best. This is a company dragged from the ashes multiple times by great people who actually love bikes, designed and built by legendary racers, designed by passionate engineers, the attitude and arrogance that dominated Dakar for 2 decades, Supercross titles, MXGP titles, and turned them from a joke dirt bike brand into a juggernaut. And riding this bike off-road, I realized I'd been very wrong. Off-road, this thing is fantastic. The riding position is pure KTM. I'm 6'2" and I would not change a single thing. The chassis feels outrageously nimble and precise on slippery winter UK trails. I've instantly got that magic confidence that a great off-road chassis gives you, and it is superb fun. The tyres seem to bite harder than they have any right to, and it makes me want to go faster than I ever expected I would. The tyres in question are the Mitas Enduro Trail Plus. Now they're the OEM tyre on a 390 Adventure R, but they're also our control tyre. It's the exact same model I run on every test bike because testing consistency is everything. If I'm comparing chassis, geometry, suspension or electronics, the tyre has to stay the same, and the Enduro Trail Plus gives me a solid baseline. What makes it such a good choice for that role is that it's capable of air, but it offers really predictable performance. Off-road, it transitions from grip to slide in a very progressive way and provides plenty of grip even in slippery conditions. There is nothing worse than a tyre that loses grip without warning or is inconsistent in how it responds. I want a tyre that can balance all of that across the road and off-road that I'm riding, whether it's cold and wet or dry and warm. It's designed with direct input from the legend that is Chris Birch, and on the 390 Adventure R, well, weirdly, it feels like it's grippier than the chalk and clay of southern England should allow. This is why a control tyre helps so much, and it's probably because of a combination of things, including weight, but the WP Apex suspension is a little bit better than I expected. It's sensitive enough, surprisingly capable of resisting bottoming even with my heft on top of it. Now, I'm not going to win a Dakar on this bike, but for the job of budget-friendly, capable adventure bike, I think it's spot on. Slipping in and out of ruts feels effortless, and the level of trust that it generates in me is high. It's probably because the geometry and the feedback isn't a million miles away from KTM's dirt bikes. On the faster, more open dirt roads, it's a little busier than the typical adventure bike, and I think if you live in an open country like Australia or America or South Africa, that might be a negative, but the trade-off will be found in the lower weight and the more nimble geometry. It rides like a bike meant to get you to the trails without compromising once you get there. This is the bike the original 390 Adventure should have been. The motor is the weakest part of the package. It's post-update, so the infamous stalling is mostly gone. It only flamed out once in third gear at 8 miles an hour, and I did stall it a couple of times trying to take some one-handed photos. It's surprisingly quick once the revs climb, but there's no chug, no single-cylinder plod. If I were better at engineering and machining things, I'd look at adding a touch of rotating mass, like a clutch weight or a flywheel weight, just to give it more inertia and make it more forgiving in the technical stuff, even if that means sacrificing a little of its free revving nature. It's not offensive, and it's not as awful as some people in the comments have made it sound. It's just forgettable. We're not going to look back in 30 years and reminisce about the 390 engine, but the bike around it, that might become a cult icon in the same way the CRF 300 Rally has.
Held on to that for way too long without dabbing.
KTM feel like they set out to build a no-compromise off-road biased adventure bike, a CRF 300 Rally with fewer farm bike and street bike qualities, a more dirt bike soul, and in that context, this is a good machine. It's a niche bike, a true off-road centric ADV. Fast enough for the motorway, enough fuel range to cover distance, and just enough wind protection to keep you from completely freezing without sacrificing the off-road when things get tricky. What blows me away is how completely different this is to the previous 390. It is flabbergastingly different. It's everything I hoped it would be, while also having the engine I feared it would. I'm going to stop short of glowing praise because KTM stopped short of a few things. But for £6,000, it does something no other off-the-shelf adventure bike does. It is leagues better than a CRF 300 Rally to actually ride, leagues lighter and more off-road focused than a Himalayan, and built on a totally different ideology to the CF Moto, and that's worth celebrating.